Good evening, everyone. It's about 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. First off, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight for our RiverWatch Winter Speaker Series. For those of you who are not familiar with the Illinois RiverWatch Network, RiverWatch is a community science organization that trains volunteers to monitor water quality in their own communities. The mission of RiverWatch is to safeguard the future of Illinois rivers and streams through stewardship, education, and sound science. And at this point, I would like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Jennifer Russell. Jennifer is the executive director of the statewide nonprofit Illinois Lyme Association. She realized the challenges that those with Lyme and other tick-borne diseases face after her daughter suffered from undiagnosed tick-borne disease for several years. Jennifer's efforts have catapulted awareness in Illinois, which have resulted in research and monumental legislation changes throughout the state. Jennifer is also a member of the Illinois Department of Public Health Lyme Disease Task Force and is frequently sought out by providers as a resource. And with that, I would like to welcome Jennifer Russell.
Well, thank you very much, Danielle. So it's not advancing on my side at all. All right, there, finally. All right, so our mission really is to raise awareness about Lyme and other tick-borne disease in Illinois to the public and healthcare professionals, as well as provide support to patients and families. So we work with many groups and organizations around the state on education. I am sure most of you are aware of ticks, but tonight we will be discussing the tick surveillance in Illinois and then go through symptoms of Lyme and tips on how to protect yourself. So Illinois is at a serious point with the presence of ticks and the prevalence of tick-borne disease. Times have changed and not taking precautions when you are out in the field is no longer an option. Protecting yourself is now of great importance. So a little bit about me. My interest began in ticks, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. So my daughter Lauren became extremely ill at age 7. In first grade, I found her lying in the driveway. She said that her legs just wouldn't work anymore and she was too tired to walk. She had a low-grade fever, and through the course of the weekend, we ended up in the ER. Her white blood count was so low, we were transferred to Iowa City Children's Hospital because they thought she might have leukemia. Thankfully, they stopped a bone marrow procedure because the blood levels increased slightly and they sent us home thinking that it was just a virus. So she was out of school for about a month, and the next 3 years were spent in and out of doctors' offices, tests, and more tests. In second grade, she lost most of her short-term memory. In third grade, she started having some sort of seizures. In fourth grade, another big decline happened and severe symptoms set in, and she began sleeping 12 to 16 hours a day. She was experiencing serious cognitive and brain fog complications, and there were days it was like having a 10-year-old Alzheimer's patient. She was living on pain meds at this point, and then randomly 3 bullseye rashes appeared in her armpits. Several doctors denied that Lyme was a possibility, stating there was no Lyme in Illinois. So her bullseyes were not raised, itchy, or scaly, but they diagnosed her with ringworm. One physician told me she needed psychiatric counseling because they believed she was marking herself for attention. So within a short time, our dog became ill, whining and dragging his legs. He had the exact same bullseye, and he was quickly treated for Lyme disease. So after our dog's diagnosis, it took being tested 3 times before she came back positive, and she was in treatment for 4 years. We saw 9 doctors before receiving her diagnosis. So short courses of antibiotic treatments failed as she had continued relapses. It took 3 antibiotics at once for a year to finally reach remission. So are ticks really a threat? According to the CDC, tick-borne disease increasingly threaten the health of people in the United States, stating that everyone should take steps to protect themselves from tick bites. Daniel Sonnenschein from the National Institute of Allergy of Infectious Diseases stated in an MSN article that the general public needs to understand that tick-borne diseases in the United States have reached epidemic proportions and are a significant threat to public health. Ticks are spreading at an alarming rate across the country. So data for tick-borne disease is very slow to report. This is actually an older map from 2015, but you can really see the map is filling in. So rise in host availability and expansion of land developing are a couple of reasons for the increase. The University of Illinois study states migrating birds are also a cause for the spread. So ticks are a part of the arachnid family. They have a 3-year host cycle. The cycle begins when the female tick lays her eggs, approximately 1,000 to 2,000 eggs. They hatch into larvae attached to field mice or small rodents, which are huge carriers. And then the larvae turn into nymphs, then nymphs to adults. So they must eat a blood meal at each stage to survive. Ticks can be extremely small. Most people believe they would feel or see a tick crawling on them, but most don't. As you can see, they can be very, very tiny, which explains why they can be so easily missed. Ticks are active all year. Each tick species has a slightly different peak season, but usually in the spring and the fall. But our Illinois researchers still find ticks in the snow on warmer days. So who are most at risk to encounter ticks? Extracurricular activities and employment are a factor. High-risk hobbies include outdoor enthusiasts, gardening, hiking, camping, hunting, or shed antler hunters or mushroom hunters. Kids in cross-country are often diagnosed with tick-borne disease. Career risks are railroad, park rangers, conservation police, and forestry, landscapers, utility, construction workers, outdoor researchers, farmers. They are out in the field with the livestock. Our homeless population are also at great risk. Additionally, this also puts their family members at a higher risk. So kids ages 5 to 14 and adults ages 45 to 64 are in the highest risk bracket. According to IDPH's 2021 10-year summary report, 42% more cases are men than female. However, many women are not diagnosed quickly because their symptoms are often blamed on hormone-related issues found later to be diagnosed with tick-borne disease. Finding a tick on a pet double the likelihood of finding ticks crawling on or attached to household members, especially if they sleep in bed with the family. So ticks are spreading rapidly in Illinois. Prior to 2018, the Illinois Department of Public Health did not do tick surveillance, but through our advocacy in Illinois, in 2019, they began the first active tick surveillance program. So all surveillance information we discuss is from the IDPH tick maps. This data is from March of 2023. They update annually. A link to the maps were on our website. However, as of yesterday, IDPH has taken down all the maps. We are hoping this is just for updates, but we're really not sure at this point. So ticks are being found to carry multiple infections at once. So the counties that you see shown in white have not been surveilled yet. And IDPH lists 4 ticks right now: the black-legged tick or deer tick, the Lone Star tick, Gulf Coast tick, and the American dog tick. So what the IDPH map is showing is the deer tick is moving down from Wisconsin, and the Lone Star tick and Gulf Coast ticks are moving up from the south, and they're starting to overlap in the mid-state. The IDPH map is interactive, so if you click on the tab of a specific tick, tabs with those potential disease agents will come up. Then click on the disease, click on the county that you're interested in. It will show you how many ticks have been tested, how many were positive. So for this example, Peoria County, 29 ticks have been collected and 9 are positive. So that's a 31% positivity rate. So the CDC does require a collection of 25 ticks as quantitative for the entire county. So this is a good overview showing we are way beyond just one disease being the only risk. So these are the most common ticks that we will be discussing. The tick species is listed down on the left and the tick pathogen across the top. So each check mark indicates the pathogens that the tick is known to carry. So as you can see, most ticks can carry many pathogens, and getting a tick's identification can be very helpful to cross-reference it with any symptoms. So the American dog tick is a primary host of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Many human cases are reported in Southern Illinois. However, only one tick has come back positive. So transmission can begin in less than 4 hours after a tick bite, and Rocky Mountain spotted fever can be deadly. So early symptoms include high fever, severe headache, muscle pain, gastrointestinal distress, and swelling around the eyes and back of the hands. So a rash generally appears 2 to 4 days after the onset of the fever. So you must receive antibiotics within 5 days of the onset, or the risk of mortality rises dramatically. The Lone Star ticks are coming up from the south. They are very aggressive and actually will chase you. So as of February 2022, 60% of the Lone Star ticks tested positive for Rickettsia amblyommatis. This is a spotted fever group. The CDC does not have much information on it, other than describing it as a milder Rocky Mountain spotted fever. However, studies from other countries actually indicate it's very similar in severity to Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Hotspot counties range from 55% to an extremely alarming 87% of the Lone Star ticks are infected in Massac County. So to date, IDPH is no longer reporting on this pathogen. So the alpha-gal is very new. It's linked to the bite of a Lone Star tick. It's a slow progressing allergy that usually starts as gastrointestinal issues that can develop into anaphylaxis each time red meat is consumed. So a recent study has Illinois in the top 13 states for positive cases. Products made from mammals can also trigger a reaction. These include mammalian meat like beef, pork, and lamb, milk, dairy products, gelatin, medications, medical products, including some vaccines, personal care products like lotion and makeup, and many other items. So there is a test for alpha-gal. Treatment is complete avoidance with an EpiPen prescription, and alpha-gal has been known to trigger other allergies. So testing Lone Star ticks for ehrlichiosis is just beginning. Multiple strains are being found in Southern Illinois. So the map on the left is the human incidence rate. Symptoms of ehrlichiosis include fever, chills, headache, muscle pain, fatigue, gastrointestinal distress, altered mental status, and a rash, which actually is more common in children, and ehrlichia, which has a potential to be deadly if not diagnosed quickly enough. So if you are working ever in Kankakee or Williamson counties, you need to be aware of the Heartland virus carried by the Lone Star tick. There are no known treatments currently, but it does have a high risk of death. So symptoms are very similar to ehrlichiosis and anaplasmosis. So the newly invasive Gulf Coast tick has been found in 14 counties in Southern Illinois and moving upward. It can transmit Rickettsia parkii rickettsiosis, or tidewater fever, which again is very similar to Rocky Mountain spotted fever with no direct testing. So an eschar or scab will be present at the bite mark. Average of 21% of the Gulf Coast ticks are positive, with hotspots ranging from 19 to 36%. So the deer ticks carry the most pathogens of any other tick. We will go through the most common for Illinois. So anaplasmosis has been located in 12 counties, hotspots in Lake and Lee County at a 10 to 11% positivity rate. It attacks the white blood cells, and it's the most prevalent tick-borne disease in cattle in Southern Illinois. Babesia is a parasitic infection that attacks the red blood cells. It's very similar to malaria. It has been found in 4 counties. Hotspots are Ogle and Peoria at 12 to 14% positivity rate. So symptoms include fever, chills, fatigue, muscle aches, headache, gastrointestinal distress, and dark urine. There is mother-to-baby transmission as well. So according to the CDC publication in November of 2021, ehrlichiosis and babesia are also in the blood supply. So Borrelia miyamotoi is really a public health alert. So finding this tick in my yard actually was the reason why IDPH began surveillance efforts. They have since found it in 18 counties and much more widespread across the state. So the infected ticks will transmit Borrelia miyamotoi to all 1 to 2,000 of its babies. So it causes the exact same symptoms as Lyme disease. You will rarely present with a bullseye rash, and if left untreated, it can cause the same cardiac, neurologic, and arthritic problems. It is also harder to treat than Lyme. So really the scary part is it looks like Lyme, it smells like Lyme, but you will never test positive on a Lyme disease test. So is Lyme in Illinois? Absolutely, yes. It's been here for a while. So back in the late 1990s, 20% of the deer ticks from Loud Thunder Forest Preserve in Rock Island County tested positive for Lyme. On February 20th, 2024, the University of Illinois, Illinois Natural History Survey Medical Entomology Lab testified to the General Assembly that 40% of the deer ticks in Illinois are now positive with Lyme, and 20% of the nymph deer ticks are positive. Our northern counties have much higher infection rates, so our hotspot counties are Winnebago County at 66% of the deer ticks are positive for Lyme disease. Joe Davies at 60%, Putnam at 59% infected, Lake at 47%, Kendall at 44%, and then even down into Peoria at 31%. So Illinois tick surveillance percentages are very comparable to New York, which is a CDC endemic state. So Lyme disease is the #1 borne vector illness in North America and Europe and has more than doubled in the last 13 years. It's 1.5 times more common than breast cancer and 6 times more common than HIV. So the CDC released a new study based off of insurance claims, now estimating 476,000 cases of Lyme disease alone each year. That's a 59% increase from 2010. Cases are reported all year. Cumulatively, since 2005, roughly 6.7 million have been diagnosed. A recent analysis estimates more than 14% of the world's population likely has or at some point had Lyme disease. Some East Coast states are no longer reporting to the CDC because they are so inundated with cases. In 2022, IDPH only reported 239 cases. We know that this is simply not even a glimpse of what is happening. The CDC admits cases are 10 times underreported. In 2021, IDPH stated that cases have risen 90.5% between 2018 and 2021. So as you can see with this graph from IDPH, Lyme cases are steadily increasing. Based on a study of those submitted insurance claims, LymeDisease.org estimates low incidence states, which Illinois is considered, are actually underreported by 50-fold. So potentially that's 11,950 cases for Illinois per year using IDPH's numbers. However, this month, 2 tick-borne disease specialty labs reported to ILA that they submitted 685 positive tests to IDPH that met the reporting criteria. At that 50-fold, we are looking at a potential 34,000 cases annually just from those 2 labs. So they also submitted an additional 443 positive tests that are suspected but not confirmed, which would add an additional 22,000 cases annually. So you can see this is no longer an East Coast issue. Illinois really does have a little tick causing big problems. So Lyme disease is a multi-system bacterial infection from the bite of an infected deer tick. Think possible tick infection during the summer when no respiratory symptoms are present. There are 3 stages of disease progression. So the early symptoms are very similar to COVID symptoms and the flu. So fever, chills, fatigue, headaches, and a general feeling of being unwell. And there is the possibility of that bullseye rash. So the bullseye or erythema migrans rash is an expanding red area that tends to clear in the center, but doesn't have to. It can vary in color from dark to very faint. Not everyone gets a rash. So studies report 30 to 80% of people get a bullseye. It won't itch or be painful, but it may be warm to the touch. So the bullseye rash does not have to appear at the bite mark. and multiples are not uncommon, especially in advanced stages. So if they're not diagnosed within 30 days, the bacteria starts to spread to other areas of the body. So in stage 2, fatigue is getting worse, Bell's palsy is fairly common. Cognitive losses are beginning, brain fog, short-term memory issues, slowed mental processing are not uncommon. Neurological symptoms and neuropathy, pain that migrates to different joints is a telltale symptom. Stages of 1 and 2 will overlap. In stage 3, things are getting pretty unbearable. So the main symptoms are severe headaches, EM rashes in other areas of the body, large joint pain and swelling, heart palpitations, episodes of dizziness, shortness of breath, brain and spinal cord inflammation, nerve pain, including shooting pain, numbness, tingling in the hands and feet. Additionally, fatigue, short-term memory loss, and brain fog are getting worse. Suicidal thoughts are not uncommon and many are homebound. So doctors have noted that symptoms may come and go even without treatment. So kids have a little bit different symptoms than adults. They may have behavioral changes, declining school performance, depression, and rage, impaired concentration, inability to sustain attention, and difficulty thinking and expressing thoughts. Struggles making decision, uncharacteristic behavior, outbursts, mood swings, light and sound sensitivity. So Lyme is well known as a great imitator. It can mimic many other illnesses that produce a wide range of symptoms. So these are just a few of the most commonly misdiagnosed. ALS, Parkinson's, MS, lupus, multiple autoimmune diseases are triggered by Lyme. Chronic fatigue syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's, and dementia. So in Peoria alone, we actually have had several patients that have been diagnosed with ALS that have found out they actually have Lyme and are improving with treatment. So mental health symptoms are also very common. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, sleep disturbances, brain fog, cognitive issues, rage, bipolar disorder, and other mental health conditions. Isolation is very common as well, that they express that no one believes them or experiencing what they are experiencing is real. So this really in turn isolates them even further. So Lyme disease testing is tricky. So I come back to this chart for a visual. So when getting Lyme disease testing, be sure you're aware that very similar to the flu having multiple strains, so does Borrelia bacteria that causes Lyme. So the test generally ordered by your doctor only checks for 1, maybe 2 of those strains. There's over 100 known strains in the United States alone. Also, it does not test for the rest of these infections that are listed. So blood tests for several of these more common diseases are only available through specialty labs. So additionally, the current Lyme disease test is centered on your immune system's response to the bacteria. So it can take up to 6 weeks to build any type of response. So testing multiple times may be necessary. If you have ever received a negative Lyme disease test, but you continue to have Lyme-like symptoms, you need to get more comprehensive testing. So the CDC admits the first week after a tick bite, the test is only about 9% accurate. Up to 4 weeks, it's about 33% accurate, and the first 30 days is the window to kill the bacteria. Oops. So providers properly trained in the complexities of treatment are hard to find. Illinois has very few. Most of them actually are in the Chicago area. In 2023, IOLA acquired 3 more medical providers from downstate to get tick-borne disease training. So if you or a family member are experiencing any symptoms, especially if you're not getting answers, please contact me. Most doctors aren't aware of how bad the testing limitations are, so it's really important for you to advocate for yourself. We do have a list of medical providers that have gone to additional training that I can send you. So there are 2 different approaches to Lyme disease treatment. The International Lyme and Associated Disease Society believes Lyme is easy to catch, hard to cure, and chronic Lyme exists. 20 days of a prophylaxis antibiotic treatment for any deer tick bites, and 4 to 6 weeks of antibiotic for an acute infection. Delayed diagnosis is treated longer term, and treatments may vary. So the Infectious Disease Society believes Lyme is hard to catch, very easy to cure, and chronic Lyme does not exist. So treatment is 10 to 21 days of antibiotics for acute infection only. So reducing risk is essential, and prevention is the key. It's very important to start making prevention a part of your routine, considering you are in a high-risk category. So the most important step is to treat your clothes and your gear with permethrin and let it dry. So it binds to the clothing fibers. You want to follow the package instructions for applying. It's not for your skin application. Don't spray it around cats. But it does give the ticks what's called hot feet, and they will die. So permethrin lasts for several washes. We do have a how-to video on our website. If you do not want to treat your clothes, I highly recommend you get one of those white coverall suits to go over your clothes and then treat that with permethrin. So really need to start making this a part of your routine. This is especially important if you're going to go out and sit, do any type of work in tall grass or by the water. So the vegetation surrounding the water are considered moderate to high risk habitat. People who wore permethrin treated footwear and socks were nearly 74 times less likely to get a tick bite than those who wore untreated footwear, according to one study. Additionally, we suggest, tucking your pants into your socks, wear light colored clothing, a hat, hooded sweatshirt or coat, wear tall boots that are treated with permethrin. Also put double-sided carpet tape around the top of your boots, and that will stop any of those tiny ticks. Also using tick repellent spray with picaridin or 40% DEET or higher. So you can also purchase pre-treated clothing. It's also an option. Insect Shield has a great line. They also have a service where you can just mail your clothes into them. They will treat them and then return them to you. And those are good for 70 washes. So these are examples of permethrin and picaridin containing products. Sawyer has a great line of products for clothes and skin. You can find these anywhere that they sell bug spray, like Walmart or Menards. Avon sells picaridin as well. Oil of eucalyptus is also good for deterring ticks, but don't use that on children. Wondercide is a great company if you're looking for something more natural. Also, a great company is Zone Protects. They have an outfitter spray of permethrin and picaridin sprays. They do offer a discount code for ILA. The coupon code is NOLyme. The code is good for their entire website, and you do get a 10% off discount. So there is a little disclaimer that anything you purchase with the code, the company does give back to our organization as a donation. So they're also available at Walmart online, but the code only works directly from their website. So it's very important when you come inside, you're checking your clothes before you just, kind of put them in the laundry pile. Be sure you're taking steps at home to also protect your family. So my husband, when he comes into the woods, he used to have a tendency to throw his clothes in the laundry room until I would start finding ticks crawling on the floor. So we don't do that anymore. Using a masking tape lint roller to remove any of those tiny ticks. You can see that tape is coated with larvae. Putting the clothes in a super hot dryer for about 20 minutes can kill any undiscovered ticks. And third, shower. So Yale study reports showering immediately reduces a risk up to 58%. So next you want to do your tick checks. You're running your fingers through your hair. You're using a mirror to check your back, shoulders, armpit, belly button, groin, legs, and thighs, behind the knees, in between fingers and toes. As we discussed, pets sleeping with the family increases your risk. It's very important you are treating your pets all year, and be vigilant and checking them every time they come inside. So at home, there are steps you can take to protect your yard. Clear tall grasses and brush around the homes and the edge of the yard. Place a 3-foot wide barrier of wood chips or gravel between lawns and wooded areas, especially around patios and children's play equipment. Keep yards mowed frequently. Leaves are the ticks' most loved environment, so keeping those raked. Stack wood neatly in a dry area. Keep playground equipment, decks, and patios away from yard edges and in sunny locations if possible. Remove any trash from your yard. Chickens and guinea fowl are also great tick eaters. Plants that deter ticks is garlic, sage, mint, lavender, rosemary, and marigolds. I highly recommend the removal of any invasive species, plant species like Japanese barberry or bush honeysuckle. So studies suggest tick prevalence is much higher where these invasive plants are present. Additionally, controlled burns are a potential tick control method the University of Illinois researchers are looking into. So if a tick is found, proper tick removal is extremely important. Always wear gloves to protect yourself from any pathogens. If you don't have gloves, thoroughly washing your hands after handling a tick. So we don't want to use soap. We don't use essential oils. We don't burn them, twist them, or smother them. We want to get them off as quickly as possible and not cause them to regurgitate. So use only fine pointed tweezers or forceps. Regular tweezers will not allow you to get close enough to the skin. Pull with a slow, steady pressure until it releases. If the tick is embedded, have a doctor remove it to be sure to get the head out. Do not throw the tick away. Put it in a container and seal it. If you use a baggie, put packing tape over the seal. Clean all bites thoroughly with antiseptic. You want to watch any bite areas for changes. I suggest taking a picture of the bite so it's easier to tell if it is changing. And then go to your doctor immediately if you are experiencing symptoms. But remember, it can take up to 30 days for the symptoms to appear. And lastly, we send the tick in for ID and testing. So currently the CDC does not recommend tick testing. In my opinion, there's value in it for two reasons. It gives you the tick's identification, which is important to help pinpoint which of those pathogens you are dealing with. It can also show potential infections that you can cross-reference with any symptoms you're experiencing. Considering the human testing limitations, I think all tools are essential to put puzzle pieces together. So the two labs I recommend are ticknology.org and tickreport.com. So go to their website, follow the instructions on how to mail it in. There is a fee to test a tick. The cost is based on how many pathogens you test for, but there is a quick turnaround. So a few things to note: tick testing is not a medical diagnosis. Also, you can be bit by more than one tick and not know it. The results only test for the most common pathogens. And science is always changing, so be aware some strains are at risk for animals and not humans, so you do need to look up any positives. And always watch for symptoms regardless of results. So new infections are discovered frequently. As you can see in this chart from the CDC, many within the last 10 years. So even if a tick tests negative, listen to your body if you're experiencing random symptoms. Excuse me. Current guidelines on the 24 to 48 hour tick attachment time needs to be readdressed. So for Lyme disease only, it does take 24 hours for the bacteria to build in the midgut and transfer. However, there are documented cases of much shorter attachment times. So other considerations: was there another tick not found, or was the tick already attached to the dog and now it's found its way to a new family member? So some co-infections can transmit in as little as 15 minutes. So all tick bites should be taken seriously regardless of attachment time. So Illinois Lyme is primarily funded through a state appropriation by way of a grant for the Illinois Lyme Association's tree project through IDNR. It focuses on education to the public, safety education to employees in our hunter safety program, hunters, trappers, and fishermen, updating DNR's website and getting signs in the parks, and beginning the first passive tick surveillance program. So ILA's tree project includes a new tick research program of passive surveillance, meaning you mail in ticks. So we have partnered with the Illinois Natural History Survey at the University of Illinois to help us with this program. We have already found a new species and new pathogens detected from the tick submissions this last year. So please, any unattached ticks that you find, we would greatly appreciate you sending those into our program. We do have instructions on our website on how to mail those in. This will help us with some very important research. And again, any attached ticks, we want to encourage you to mail those into either of those other labs that we discussed. So ILA is a small organization, but has a big impact around the state. So 2 critical laws were passed because of our advocacy, protecting doctors to treat outside CDC guidelines without fear of losing their license, and insurance coverage for patients are just a few. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Our support comes from grants, donations, and fundraising. You know, I don't know if any of you like to golf, but we do have a great tournament at the beautiful PGA course at TPC Deer Run in the fall. So grab a team and we'd love to have you a part of our day. This year it is October 5th. So if you or a family member have tick-borne disease and would need support, we do offer, monthly online in-person support meetings. We also have counseling providers that we partner with for mental health services. We currently have about 1,800 members in our patient Facebook group. So I want to encourage you, please go to our website. As I mentioned, we have a lot of additional information there, including printable fact sheets. You can also sign up for a quarterly newsletter. We are also on Facebook and Instagram, so we'd love it if you'd follow us there. So as the tick epidemic continues to grow, we need to put tick illness at the front of our minds and not the last. And I hope this has made you more aware of the importance of taking those necessary precautions. So this is my contact information. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Jen, for that presentation. That's a lot of great information. And I certainly have a lot more to think about, already knowing that I wanted to avoid ticks, and now it just gives me that much more of a boost to want to do that. And if anyone has questions at this time, again, feel free to put those in the chat. But I have a couple to get us started. So you talked about the, I might mispronounce this, the permethrin.
Mm-hmm.
So is that safe for, since a lot of us are doing water quality monitoring, is it a problem to use that specifically, or really any of the other pesticides, or do they cause problems in water or just get washed off and become ineffective if we're using them around water?
Yeah, so I would say they're okay for water because they're good for several washes. So it sticks to the fibers of the clothing, and it's not just gonna, it's not just like a DEET or regular bug spray that you put it on and then as soon as it gets wet, it's gonna wash away. So it's gonna stick to the clothing fiber. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of products out there for us to use, so we're very, very limited. But I can tell you from experience, like my husband's a big hunter and goes to Maine, and we've never had a tick issue and Maine is hugely endemic. And he's kind of out in the water and yuck and out there too, and hasn't had any problems with it. So as far as, like it coming off and getting into the waterways, I wouldn't feel that would be an issue.
Okay. And Hannah's asking, can you use tick keys instead of tweezers?
I would say at this point, the CDC is only recommending fine pointed tweezers. I think that's up to you individually, what you are comfortable with and using, but all I can say is the CDC only recommends fine pointed tweezers.
Okay. So this is something that I'm thinking about, just because like in my experience, I spent most of my life living in relatively urban areas, and of course ticks can show up in those areas, but you know, do you have any information on like how urban an area, like how urban does an area have to be before it's going to tend to be less of an issue?
I would say every area is a risk. So I I talked with one of our state senators, I think it was last year, and she was sitting at a restaurant in downtown Chicago on the streets. They had like an outdoor little area on the sidewalk, and the person she was with had a tick crawling up her leg. So, and we're talking downtown Chicago. So, really everywhere. I know most of our patient group, I would say 80% of them are from in Chicago.
Okay. Sherry is asking, are prophylactic antibiotics recommended for tick bites?
So if you follow the ILADS group, which is, you know, a medical society of providers that believe Lyme is easy to catch and hard to cure, then yes. They recommend any deer tick bites, a 20-day prophylaxis antibiotic treatment, because the risk is just too high of long-term symptoms.
Okay. Hannah asks, do you know if there is any research on whether ticks have preferences? For example, how mosquitoes supposedly prefer different blood types.
I believe there's like one study, so there's hardly any research on tick-borne disease. Unfortunately, it just has not been a focus. But I believe there's one study that people with the blood type B have a higher prevalence to encounter ticks. So I'm not sure what it is for mosquitoes, but for ticks, it's the B blood type.
Okay. Great. Yeah, these are some great questions.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm definitely planning to encourage all of our volunteers to, you know, we're recording this session, so encourage volunteers and most of my coworkers who also do a lot of work outside. I'm going to encourage them to catch this recording because there's a lot of really important information.
Well, the big thing is, you know, if people don't want to put, you know, the permethrin that close to their skin or on their clothes, the coveralls, I mean, the researchers at U of I, that's what they use. They put on these white, you know, full body coveralls, and those are just treated, and that's what they use every time they go out. And so that would really be a great, you know, purchase. They're not expensive, and just have a set that's treated already, and that's what you put on over your clothes, and you just take it off, and it's white, easy to see whether there's any ticks on it or anything. And then definitely the carpet, double-sided carpet tape around the top of like your tall boots, that definitely would be a good one as well. So
Great. Sherry's asking about allergic reactions to tick bites. When she gets bit, she tends to have like allergy type issues for days.
Yep.
So is that just a general allergic reaction, or do you think does that seem like it would be likely one of the tick-borne illnesses?
It depends. I mean, the area where a tick bites you can get aggravated and kind of, you know, get red and angry looking. If you're having any of those symptoms that I went through, I know we went through a lot, but then I would definitely be checking into more comprehensive testing for tick-borne disease. You know, anytime you get bit, you want to make sure that you're cleaning it with alcohol and really well, and then putting any, you know, kind of antiseptic on it also. So those are just a few things that I would make sure that you definitely do. And like I said, remember, it can take up to 30 days to get any type of symptoms. So, you know, marking it on the calendar, I got bit on this day. And then, you know, you can keep track on a calendar too. Am I having any symptoms? Well, today, even if you think it's irrelevant, you know, today I had a headache. So you're going to mark that on the calendar. I had a really bad headache today, or man, today I'm just overly tired, and then writing that down. And that can help kind of see a pattern if you're getting more and more symptoms as you move to that 30 days.
Yeah, one thing that I do, and so I'm curious of your thoughts on this, is if I find a tick on me, I will put it on a piece of like not masking tape, the clear tape, and then
Packing tape.
yeah, and then fold the tape over so it's trapped inside the tape, and then I write the date on it, and I hang on to that for a while. Didn't know if you have any thoughts about like that as a potential preservation method, just to be able to keep track of it, and like if I start having symptoms, I can then get it checked, get the tick tested.
I generally more recommend like putting it in a Ziploc or something, just because if it's alive, some of the viruses, like folding it in a packing tape may, you know, kill it. And if it would have like that Heartland virus, or, you know, one we didn't discuss is the Powassan virus, which that one, you know, can transmit within 10 minutes, and it's very, very bad. So a lot of the viruses will, when a tick dies, will like, they're not detectable very easy. So trying to preserve the tick and keep it alive is your best option. But definitely, you know, writing on the bag and when it was when you got bit and where. I always want people to write, you know, location, so that can also help give data to the researchers at U of I, you know, where it was encountered at. And then you know, what I do is I go out and get like a small, like kind of small handful of grass and put it down in there. So they used to recommend like a moist cotton ball, but what we found was the tick was getting molded before it got to the lab in Champaign. And so we, through some kind of collaborative with the medical entomology lab, figured out that if we put a little bit of grass in there, it keeps them moist enough without allowing them to mold. So she was getting really good, perfect specimens when they were coming in the mail. So, yep. And they can sit on the counter for a really long time alive with grass. Unfortunately.
Yeah, because they basically need to have like one blood meal
Yeah.
per year, right?
Yes.
That's crazy that they can live on just one meal a year.
Yep. They're horrifying creatures.
All right. Anyone else have any questions or final thoughts? All right. Well, with that, Jen, once again, thank you for the great presentation. And thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. So this was our final winter speaker series event. We'll be back in the fall with a new speaker series, a new talk. So if anybody has any thoughts or ideas and things you'd like to hear about next season, let us know. So we do have our spring training workshops open for registrants now. We've got 15 workshops, I think, set up all across the state. So if you're interested in joining us in community science, you can attend a workshop and learn how to conduct habitat and biological surveys in your local streams. So you can register for these events and other future activities on our webpage or through our Facebook page. So we've got, we're putting up event postings gradually on Facebook, but we do have a post, and if you click on the registration link on any of them, it will take you to a listing of all of the different workshops we have. So once again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right. Thank you, everybody.